what is going on, you guys? It is Livid Fray. Hope you guys are all doing very well today. I won't lie to you all, this week is not the greatest for the reset, but I'm still going to go over the picks that I would recommend this week. We're starting off here inside the Blueprint vendor. This vendor does have a Pro Red Dot sight available for us this week. I throw these on pretty much all of my ARs and SMGs. I think that it's better for aesthetics than the C79, so I do recommend purchasing this blueprint. The small grip is for sale this week, but it's power level 33, so if you don't mind that potential damage drop off and you just care about the color, you could do this instead. If you go into things like Last Stand or Skirmish, it's going to scale up anyway, so you can do that. Leaving the terminal, heading over here to the base of ops, the gear vendor over here has a 2% pulse critical hit chance mod. Normally, I've stopped recommending these just because they are definitely better mods that you could be buying. However, if you have the credits to spare and you need something to make your pulse a little bit better, you can use these. Keep in mind that these only apply to your personal pulse. They do not apply to your teammates. So make sure you guys are utilizing these for yourself, for your solo builds, instead of with your teammates. One thing that I will note about the pulse mods, one of the main reasons why I've wanted to stop recommending them is because I would really just recommend using Precision if you're by yourself anyway. Precision has like a 12% pulse critical hit chance and 25% damage, so Precision by itself is already a much higher and more beneficial talent to be using without needing to sacrifice your mod slots. So this is what I would recommend instead of using pulse critical hit chance and damage mods. However, I just want to let you guys know that this one is for sale this week. There is one for sale also inside the terminal, but that one's Phoenix credits, so I wouldn't recommend buying that one. I would recommend buying the one inside the base. Our next location, and where we have the most items for sale this week, actually is going to be inside Camp Clinton, so let's go check that out. Alright, we are here inside Camp Clinton. There's a couple items here at the blueprint vendor that I'll mention, one of them being the classic M44 carbine. This one is the actual highest base damage for a marksman rifle. You are going to be missing out on some mod slots, so if you don't care about that as much, then you could definitely purchase this and start using these. These work out really well for Sentry, as well as, you know, Hunter's Faith and things like that. The next item I'd recommend is this 5.52 holo sight. I use this quite a bit for my PvP builds on my ARs. I also think they just look really good. I kind of wish that we had a black version, but I think they're all tan, other than like the EXP sights, so I would recommend this if you're going for crit. We also have the compensator. This works really well for stability, so you can use this on your urban MDRs for Sentry or your LMGs for Lone Star, and that is pretty much it for the blueprints. If we head over to the special equipment vendor, there's a few items here that I want to recommend. We're going to start off with the gloves. So there is actually a really decent pair of Savage gloves here. We didn't want to recommend this on the actual vendor reset itself because it is like a really low stat roll and it's going to take a lot of optimization to make these good. However, if you are looking for PvP builds for Last Stand or Skirmish, these are perfect to be picking up. You can also use these just in the Dark Zone and optimize them over time, but the stat is pretty low, so it's going to take you some time to optimize these because you will need to roll this pistol damage over for a critical hit chance. But these gloves in general are a pretty good set. The next one is going to be the stamina mod on 267 stamina and 3006 health. We don't see these very often. These are really good to be throwing on like your pure tank builds, so you can throw these on like your 10k stamina nomads, your rope cutter builds, and these work out really well. We do also have this 4% Seeker Mine damage performance mod here. I definitely recommend picking this one up for your tactician builds. And we finally have the extended magazine here. 120 mag size, 3% crit chance, 5% reload speed. This is actually really good. Ideally, you probably want critical hit damage here or rate of fire instead of reload speed, but this is still a really good magazine. Make sure you guys pick this up if you don't have one. So that clears Camp Clinton. Next, we're heading over to Dante's Run, which is very close to Camp Clinton. Alright, we have made it to Dante's Run. This vendor does have a damage to elite mod for us this week. There is another firearms one for sale, but I think it's in the 190s, so we're recommending this one instead at 201 with 3% damage to elites. If you haven't been online and if you've missed the ones that we've had these last few weeks, make sure you guys pick these up. They are better than nothing, I assure you, and they are over 200, so this one's already a really solid mod to be picking up. Our next vendor is going to be located at DZ East 31st Street. There is an AK for sale here. Keep in mind, obviously, Dark Zone weapons are super expensive. They're usually over 400k, and that's a lot of Dark Zone credits, so only buy this if you guys have the credits to drop, because you guys can find better ones. I just wanted to showcase this because the rolls are pretty good. It has Deadly, Brutal, and Prepared. You can really roll any one of these talents that you want and it'll work. Prepared is probably not the greatest one to have down here, so you could change this if you want for something like Destructive or Ferocious. But in general, I technically don't recommend buying weapons unless they are like god roll weapons, but this one is pretty decent to have, so I would recommend this one this week. Our last location is going to be at DZ09 Safehouse, so I'm going to head up there and then I'll meet you guys there. Alright, I've made it to the DZ09 Safehouse. I wanted to show you guys this heavy mag spring. Has critical hit chance and damage with rate of fire already listed here. We unfortunately didn't reach like the 11% rate of fire, however this is so microscopic I don't think it's going to make a very big difference. The critical hit chance and damage here are the essential pieces. This is like the perfect magazine to run for PvP Lone Star, to run on your MG5s or your L86s or whatever you're using. This works out really, really well. You'll want to have that rate of fire to peel through that magazine as fast as you can to get your bonus, and if you don't get it right away, you're able to swap weapons right away and start it over. I do think that this one's worth the Dark Zone credits. You really don't see rolls like this really often. I had to craft a lot of these to get the ones that I wanted, so I would definitely recommend buying this. Usually you're getting like, you know, magazine size or reload speed on these magazines, so the fact that this one has critical hit chance and damage and they're both maxed out, this is perfect to pick up. Make sure you guys do this for Lone Star. That is unfortunately everything that I'm recommending this week. Like I said, there's not too much happening. I'm hoping that next week's a little bit better, but to be fair, we did have a lot of luck with the resets in general recently. We had like those 4% damage to elite mods and some pretty good picks, so I was expecting a kind of subpar week, but I'm hoping next week is better. But if there is nothing this week, there is always next week. I'll talk to you guys in the next episode. Have a great rest of your day.